A lot of times, in order to connect with an entrepreneur and show them the value of sharing their story, is that people remember stories. People connect with others who are authentic and real.
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and in life. Today, we have a special guest that has walked down a treacherous path to becoming an incredible marketer and an amazing storyteller. Thank you, Serena Maston from Pulse Marketing, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
I'm super excited. We got to talk a little bit offline about an incredible story that you have in your life and what you've developed and kind of where you sit today. Now you run a marketing agency really based around website development and then that campaign ideology of how to take that website and really make revenue. Can you tell us how you got here, a little bit of your backstory and kind of why you love doing what you do?
Well, I definitely want to have a disclaimer for anyone listening who's not sitting down. They probably should. Most entrepreneurs know that we deal with a lot. But I actually was started my life as a young little girl dealing with a lot. And so I started my life in witness protection and foster homes. And by the time that, I'd gone to 9 different foster homes, I had experienced sexual abuse and different forms of abuse as a child. But by the time that my mom did earn her rights back, I was too independent and rebellious. So I ended up leaving home and I lived on the streets for a year and a half. I put myself through high school and graduated. Don't ask me how I did all that. But, through that journey, you face the challenges of putting yourself in really dangerous environments as a young girl. But then I was still determined. And so I continued after I graduated to climb the corporate ladder. And, I kind of clawed my way to the top, kicking and screaming. And I was a VP of marketing for several years for a large organization that worked with Fortune 500 companies. And at that point, my mom had come to me and she said, if you would give even a quarter of the passion and, what you pour into the company you work for, into yourself, there would be no way that you wouldn't be successful. And I said, yeah, Mom, you have to say that. And she said, well, if you're not going to do it for you, then do it for me. And I said, well, you're so manipulative, but okay. And so that's when I started Pulse Marketing. And I would say I definitely started it not really thinking that it would become what it has today. And I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs, a lot of self-doubt. But we just celebrated our 10 years in business just this past year. And so we've had a treacherous journey, is saying it lightly. And we are still standing, which is a beautiful thing. One of the things that, allow us to be so authentic is that we've chosen to own our stories. And owning our own stories, including my own, has allowed me to then tell stories in a way that connect with an audience on an emotional level. And it's real, it's raw, it's authentic. And that's how we became where we are today.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I mean, there's so many times, and especially in recent marketing, where we talk about the empathy, the emotional tie back that really leads to sales. I mean, there's a million offers and incentives that go out there, but in today's noise, the ability to tap into the real story that creates the emotional tie back is what leads to not only getting the true essence of your business out there, but also creating that connection with the customers that have such a longer lasting effect that leads to higher average order values, lower a lower turnover rate, higher retention rate, and a better overall connection with the customers. And I love how you do that. So today, how are you doing that for your clients? Is it through websites? Is it through a brand guidelines? How are you creating that story? And a better question, how are you getting business owners to open up to that story? Because a lot of them have a brick wall you have to break through to kind of get the true story out of them.
Well, and there's a part of us that, and I did this for many years. You hide behind who you think you should be, or the status, or the version of yourself that you want others to see, and you hide behind that, and that gets really exhausting, especially as an entrepreneur. And so for a long time, I kind of fought that, where I was hiding behind, I had it all together, I'm strong, I got this, even when everything was falling apart. And so a lot of times, in order to connect with an entrepreneur and show them the value of sharing their story, is that people remember stories. People connect with others who are authentic and real. And I think one of the things that I do within my company is we have core values that we live by. They're not on the wall. They're not something that we recite. They're something we live by. Like, we live and we die by them. And, one of them is we communicate with love. And love is an acronym. It's LUV, for listen, understand, and validate. And so a lot of the things that we do really embody who we are as individuals. And once I start sharing, even my story as an entrepreneur of having $40 in my account and I just paid my staff barely, but I didn't have enough money to pay myself. There's those raw, real moments that hurt. But once people hear that and they understand that, it's a lot easier for them to connect with you and share their story.
I love that. So truly representing your own empathy and showing that first and foremost, and allowing to kind of pull out of the business owners. And if you're a business owner listening to this, this is not fugazi. This is not a different way of looking at things. This is how it's supposed to be done. You made a business around an emotion that you had, or a service that you felt that you need to put out into the world to help the world. And that is the true story, not the discount that you want to give to the customer to close them compared to your competitor. It was the actual reason that you were there in the first place. And I love that you're pulling that information, Serena, and being able to get that out of the business owners. And then are you taking that and translating it to a website? Are you making videos? What does that look like?
So a lot of the services that we do incorporate a website, incorporate emails, social media, digital advertising. So when you're communicating to now a customer, and you don't want to put, everything out on the table, right? But you want to do so in a way that matters to them. We do the research to identify the things that are important to them. And in that way, we can connect your story with what they value. And that's how we create the messaging for a campaign, a website, whether you're going to be at a trade show and you need people to come to your booth. It doesn't matter in which platform or in which way you're delivering the message. The message is what matters. And so we typically will identify the research behind who their audience is and what matters to them and what their individual story is and how it's going to connect with that person.
Such a unique approach. I mean, most people in your space are taking templations from other websites or stealing copy. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the quote, and I've even personally used it, art is theft. And that's from Picasso and being used in the marketing realm. And that works to start off on a foundational structure, but the messaging, the way that you're actually presenting who you are and what you do to the world needs to be unique. And I love the fact that you're leaning into that factor. And the reverse funnel ideology you have of that, instead of saying, what are my competitors doing? It's what do the customers of my client really resonate with? And then how does that have a tie back to the story that was built from the client in the first place and how they mesh together? And that's how you actually are closing deals.
And keep in mind, your customer is going to make a decision based on emotion no matter what, whether they're an action personality and they make a decision because they want, a temporary gratification, right? Or whether they're a nurturing personality and they want their decision to make a difference. Whatever it is, whatever personality that the actual customer has, they still have a core sense of that decision is going to be made based on an emotional decision. Like it's just human nature.
Scientifically proven that a human being without emotion does. The only thing that happens when you remove emotion, you don't become a stoic, you don't become somebody really tough. You actually are not able to make decisions. That is the one key factor that happens when you remove emotion from a human being. You can look this up yourself. I want to pivot a little bit though, because the one thing that I'm hearing that is very different than all the other website developers that I've talked to, or companies that focus on developing the brand, the messaging, is they do it in a way that's focused around what's working in the market, while you're doing it in a way that's focused on what is the emotional tie back. So do you find that to be the biggest problem in your industry, that people are too focused on the quick win instead of understanding really the process? Or what is the biggest problem that you see when you're going against another website developer or another individual that's talking about building the brand's messaging?
Well, I think the biggest obstacle is most people in marketing are focused on service and sales. This is the services we offer. This is the product we offer. We need to focus on sell, 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 sell. People don't make decisions that way. Because there's a million other companies that provide the same services, products, etc., and they're all trying to sell. But what's going to really matter and how you're going to grow that business is when you identify what are they. It's not what they're getting from your product. It's what are they giving by purchasing that product or purchasing that service. And the reason is a lot of people think like, it's all about what they get, discounts, all these things. Well, in reality, you can get a discount anywhere. That's not going to make or break your decision. But what really is when the customer sees that there's a bigger purpose, that you do hold similar values, that they're buying into your product or service is something that is going to build trust, that they're going to be advocates for you. You see how it's giving back? And that's the beauty, is people love to give. So when you think about your customer, instead of thinking about what you can get, think about what they can give by you giving what you get. So I don't know if you ever heard that saying, but you get what you give.
I love that.
Right?
A great example is that it's like Tom's Shoes, right? Tom's a basic level shoe company that doesn't do anything incredible, but the story that they held to of every shoe that we sell, we're going to give a pair of shoes away to somebody in need, creates that emotional tie back that maybe there's
a bigger purpose. By purchasing this, I'm giving something even bigger.
Exactly. And then that was the whole thing, that his mindset was, what can my customer give? Well, they can give some kid in need a free pair of shoes if they make a purchase with me.
That's a beautiful illustration.
Thank you. It's a great way that a company can leverage that. Any company can do this. Really, any company can do this, right? It's just leaning into the ethos, leaning into the emotional tie back of what's happening within the business. So, Serena, building something absolutely beautiful. My question then leads into the actual biggest. As you've gone through this, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut that. I've word vomited there for a second. Pause. And that leads me into asking, individually, you've gone through so much. As you said in the beginning, is you have an incredible story, and it truly is incredible.
The beginning.
The only beginning of it, exactly. And I truly believe the essence of a human being is defined by the challenge and tribulations and how they succeed after those things or fail after those things. It's what happens afterwards and the person that you become. And you've obviously become an incredible human being with a great business and an awesome staff. As you've gone through that and you've gone through the creation of your business, what was the biggest failure that you've had in the company itself, in the development of the company, that changed you or the way that you saw the way to do business and really enact how to go forward?
Well, I have a lot of failures and we don't have enough time for all of them. But I think the one that is the most impactful is when I started the agency in 2013. A few months after I started, my husband, came home early one day and he said, "I quit my job." And anyone knows that when you're starting a business, you need all the income you can get because you're making about $0. And he said, if I'm going to sell anything, I'm going to sell something I believe in. And so he ran with it and he became, huge on the sales side of the agency. Now, you can imagine the challenges of working with your spouse, especially as an entrepreneur, but they got really dark. So not only did some of his sales tactics not align with the values as a company that we had, but he struggled with mental health issues. He struggled with multiple infidelities. He struggled with addiction. And during our 10 years of marriage, I hid all of that because I was afraid that it would destroy my business, that it would break apart our family, that everything I had worked so hard for would now, I'd have to start over. And I finally had to recognize that the person that I was showing up as a leader, as a business owner, as a boss, right? As a human, as a mom, all those things. No matter how much I tried to pretend that I was strong, I was breaking down. And so I knew that I had to let go, not only of him as an employee, which is messy in itself, but also, let go of him as my husband. And so when I left in October of 2019, he committed suicide in March of 2020. And the aftermath, not only the pain of now your family is enduring this pain, but also my staff, because he was so integrated in the business, and also my clients. And just add the cherry on top, it was right in the middle of the lockdown. And so if any business owner could be in a situation like that, when everything is unraveling, in that moment, the only reason I kept going was because my team held me up and allowed me to heal while they pushed the company forward. Now, they wouldn't have done that if I didn't own my truth and own my story. If I kept hiding behind I'm strong and just pushing through, they would have thought I had it all together and they probably would have jumped ship. But those team members that stood by me helped me rebuild the business all over again. And so now 4 years later, we are finally in a position to thrive. But I would say that was the biggest obstacle that I faced in my personal life and as a business owner.
The listeners, if you guys have heard some of these podcasts before, you know that I've asked this question to multiple different individuals. Serena, nothing comes close. You've gone through a serious trial and tribulations that most people would crumble over, and you are still crushing it and running a successful business and pushing forward and being incredible. Sitting here in this conversation with you, the fact that the core value of what we started off with was a unique way of presenting your message. And then it leads into such a strong story of yourself and the development of who you are. And just a prime example of someone that, if you're not worth $1 billion yet, I hope you are soon, because you are definitely worth it to go through the trials and tribulations and get where you are.
We're definitely not even close to that number, but someday we'll get there.
And with your tenacity, I can definitely see it. One thing, I coach a lot of young kids, and in that process, I explain to them the difference between a broken piece of coal and a diamond. The only difference between the broken piece of coal and a diamond is that the coal itself, when it was under pressure, didn't have the right structure to find alignment, to solidify itself, to find itself in the process. and become a diamond. Instead, it crumbled and couldn't find that alignment. You have found that alignment and truly have become a diamond in the process. So it's beautiful to hear your story. I do plead for you. I'm sorry for everything that happened, but to see where you are today is absolutely wonderful. To see you striving, you smiling, and being in such an amazing spot is great. And I am confident that you're striving and you're pushing towards the future and what's going to happen next. So the next question I have for you is where do you see the industry going? Do you see more people understanding what you're doing and leaning into empathy and leaning into emotion? Do you see more people going towards the AI route, which will never have empathy? I mean, it can make nice graphics and it can make assets for us, but it doesn't know how to pull emotion out of people. Where do you see the industry that you're in, or maybe even you specifically at Pulse, going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, and to kind of put a little bit of depth on that, your freelancers, your AI, all of those things right now are going to be your biggest competitors in general. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. But you're absolutely right. The challenge with those resources are, there's a lack of empathy. There's a lack of like a human connection. And so our customers may choose to utilize all of those tools, and that's great. But I think once they realize that they're not getting the same results, they'll come back to that human connection. It's just like when you call any place and you're waiting on hold. If you actually heard a person's voice in less than 5 minutes of being on hold, you're thrilled. You're jumping out of your seat, right? You're like, what is this person? AI has been a part of our world for so long, but people haven't recognized it. It's now just a hot topic. So it's becoming something that people recognize and associate with. But the true beauty is that they're always going to default back to connecting with people on a human level and wanting that relationship so they feel heard. And honestly, I think, and I'm not a traditionalist, so I'm not saying traditional marketing is going to be forever, but I am saying connecting with people and moving relationships forward in a way where you're telling meaningful stories and you have values and you're drawing people in, you're going to have customers for life. You just are. AI, freelancers, all these additional resources or overseas resources are great, but they're not long term. And so that's just my perspective.
You bring up an excellent point. I mean, the funny thing that you first said, 2 points I want to bring up. One, AI has been around for a long time. We've been using Jasper for probably like 6 or 7 years now, which was an AI copywriter well before ChatGPT, right? So we've
Or think about Alexa. Alexa itself
is AI, yeah. So, a lot of people are unaware of how relevant it really was for the last few years. Now it's in the hands of the consumers a little bit more with OpenAI and those factors, but nail on the head. I can't see a world where we lose emotion, right? No, even if you look at Gen Z, which are supposed to be the individuals that are born off the internet and faced around Google, they're looking for autonomy. They're looking for individuality. They're looking for a separation of their information around everything else. And the only way to get that customer into your ecosystem is to create stories that actually resonate with them, and then actually gets them to want to read your content or want to absorb your content in any way, shape, or form. Beautifully said. I mean, I think it's nail on the head of what is needed in the future going forward is an understanding of empathy. It's an understanding that you have a story to tell and you should put that story out there into the world. And I think, Serena, you guys at Pulse Marketing are doing an incredible job at doing that. I have a bonus question for you.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever read the book Atlas Shrugged?
No.
So I don't recommend you read it. It's like this
Okay.
800 pages. It's super long. I had to audible it twice, right? It's a very long book, very, very long book, but the ideology is incredible. The ideology of Atlas Shrugged is based off the concept that you as a business owner, me as a business owner, we take the pressure of the world on our shoulders. We, instead of running a 9 to 5 and just doing what other people tell us to do, we decide to make our own path in this world. And in that process, we put all the pressure on our shoulders that make the world run. Businesses, if you guys haven't, listeners, if you don't know this, the world is run by business owners. It's just the process of it. Nothing new happens, nothing moves, nothing gets created without somebody actually putting it into process. So as business owners, you and I, say Atlas shrugs, say we all one day today, we just decide no more businesses and every business in existence cease to exist. What's the first business you would start tomorrow?
Oh, that's a good one. So I'm all about experience. And so I would create an experiential boutique like resort where you can come and get away from the realities or the, the chaos of everyday life and be in an environment where you can just be who you are, breathe, do art, music, yoga, all of the things. That would probably be my little next dream venture.
Oh, I love that. So really, I mean, the more I hear about it, because this question is great because it finds people's core, right? I hear some people, it's like, oh, I got to start a coffee shop because I'm not going to live without my coffee. I hear other people that are like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go right back into commerce and people need food and water. So I'm going to move food and water. Beautiful, right? So with yours, it's finding that opportunity to be yourself, to separate from society, to find your own will, to find what you love, and find that experience, as you said, where you can be you.
Yeah.
I
want
love
people to feel that because I think we get so wrapped up in success and money and bills and kids and, all the things that once you really tap in to who you are and look inward and have an opportunity to kind of unwind, that's when all the creative juices start flying. And it's a beautiful thing.
I love it. Serena Maston from Pulse Marketing, you have been incredible. To hear your story is absolutely moving, and to see what you have done in this business and kind of what you're structured to move forward, I believe is the next step for anybody that's out there that owns a business and doesn't know why you're not converting, or you're in the market and you just haven't found success, or you've hired agencies before and your messages is not coming across the way that you want to. Please contact Serena Maston here at Pulse Marketing. Serena, how can people find you?
Easily. Serena at pulsemarketingteam.com. I also use Heart of Creative, which is our tagline. So Serena at heartofcreative.com. Or you could just go to heartofcreative.com to our website and I'll be there. I'm normally the one that responds.
A CEO that's living it every single day. If she's there responding to your messages, she obviously loves what she does. Make sure, again, if you're looking for a guideline on how to be successful, if you're looking to develop your website, if you're really looking to restructure how your business is presented to the world, contact Serena Maston here at the Pulse Marketing Team. Serena, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And for all the listeners out there, if you finished the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.